Hello, good day, everyone. Thanks for all of you who have joined us this morning for the Easter Sunday, and we're happy to be here, where we're gonna have our friend Teresa presenting the family ties. That's the title of the lecture today on the reincarnation topic. And we're gonna start with Isabella is gonna read one chapter from the Happy Life book, and then we can have our friend Marcio doing the open prayer, and then we can start the presentation. Go ahead, Bella.
True forgiveness always includes erasing the offense from one's memory. If you forgive but keep referring to the incident, you are actually keeping it alive. Work on the personal weakness that keeps you
Fixated.
on the painful event, and be grateful for the opportunity to forgive. How would we evolve without mortal trials? Today's forgiveness will be your sponsor tomorrow when you yourself need mercy and forgiveness from someone else. Forgiveness is always the best for the forgiver. Do so always, and you will live.
Thank you, Isabella. Let's all close our eyes and connecting our minds to the goodness, to Jesus, our Master, to God, our Creator. We thank all the good spirits that are here with us, guiding us, inspiring us. And you ask their help to open our hearts and minds for the lessons of today. We ask their help to bless Teresa on all the teachings that she's bringing to us today. That the day of today, that the world is celebrating the return of Jesus to our planet. That means to each one of us that we can bring back today all those lessons that he taught us. That our hearts can be open to those lessons. And we can have Jesus reborn in our hearts. Thank you, Jesus, for being with us today. Thank you, Jesus, for being with us always. So be it. So be it.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about family ties. And but before anything, happy Easter to you all. It's a great day to be here, and it's a family days when a family always get together. And so it's a perfect day for us to talk about family ties. But when you talk about family ties, there's so many aspects that we can talk about it. So today I'm going to be talking about the point of view of reincarnation, family ties and reincarnation. Okay. And when we're talking about reincarnation, I was reading this passage, this chapter from the Gospel according to the Spiritism, and it really reminded me a question that someone asked me a few years ago. Someone who was not Spiritist but Christian, and asked me, "Where is in the Bible? Where is in the Jesus teachings that talks about reincarnation?" And I am not going to be very honest. If someone had made that question for me 10 years ago or more, I'll probably would not have an answer to this person, because I never really paid attention, even though I'm a Spiritist for more than 40 years now, and I always believe in reincarnation from being Spiritist. In my mind, it was something that Kardec brought to us, right? But I never stopped to think about it's in the Bible, reincarnation or not, right? But but it's good that I only got this question a few years ago. And then after doing, a few years, really doing a deep study of the gospel according to the Spiritism and connections with the Bible. Today I can see, I could actually direct this person to a few of the passages of the gospel, to the New Testament, as we call, that talks about reincarnation. And that's what I want to go start today talking about. Where is that it talks about reincarnation in the Bible? And in fact, there's quite a few passages, not only in what we call the New Testament and the Old Testament, they both have quite a few passages that talks about reincarnation, right? And the first one, it's a passage that you find in Mark and Luke, and what says, because some are saying that John had come back to life from among the dead, others that Elijah had appeared, and others that one of the ancient prophets had come back to life. So this is a passage that talks about Herod. And Herod has been hearing these stories about that, that Elijah came back, but John, and you have to remember that by this point, Herod had beheaded John of the Baptist. That's the John that we're talking about here, John of the Baptist. And he had beheaded him, and he's not understanding. He says, what are those people saying? I keep hearing that John's back, but that Elijah one that came back, that's an old prophet came back. What is this? That this guy, and he's talking about Jesus. What is all this talking that he's talking about? I'm not understanding that. I want to know more about that, right? Because there is all this conversation around the back of the Elijah was back, the John of the Baptist was back, and he said, but I beheaded him. I'm not understanding it, right? And then a little bit more clear is this passage from Matthew and Mark, where after the transfiguration, the disciples go to Jesus and ask him, why then the scribes said that it's necessary for Elijah to come first? And Jesus tells them, it is true that Elijah must to come and reestablish all things. But I declare to you that Elijah has already came and they did not recognize him, right? And then that's when the disciples understood that it was John of the Baptist about whom Jesus was talking to them, right? That's in Matthew and Mark. So here, Jesus clearly talks about John of the Baptist being the reincarnation of Elijah, right? And we know it has to be talking about reincarnation because John of the Baptist was someone that everybody knew since he was born from his mother. He knew what his mother was. He was born. He was a baby, a little boy. He grew up, so he could not be just like the resurrection of Elijah, right? And he didn't even look like face-wise. His features were not the same as Elijah, right? So clearly here, Jesus is talking about that Elijah is the reincarnation of John of the Baptist. So the spirit of Elijah comes back now in a new body to take a new name. Now it's called John of the Baptist, and he comes to fulfill a prophecy, right? Elijah was considered a prophet by the Jews, and now he's coming back, right? So that's the ancient prophet that Herod had heard about that came back to life, was Elijah, who reincarnated as a John the Baptist, right? So very clear here, Jesus is affirming here that reincarnation is possible and it's a reality and it's part of the natural way how things exist, right? But probably I think if this is not clear, then one to me that it's even more clear, and it probably is one of the most famous passages, is when Nicodemus, who is a Pharisee and is a senator of the Jews, so someone with really high knowledge of all the scriptures and the Jewish laws and everything, he comes to Jesus, and Jesus tells him, very verily I say to you, no one can see the kingdom of God unless he's born again, right? And Nicodemus is a little bit confused, and he asks Jesus, but how can it be, right? How can a man who's already old be born? can he enter his mother womb in order to be born a second time? So he couldn't understand, right? How is that? Because they didn't have enough knowledge at the time to understand the separation between the body and the spirit. Or maybe they should have, and we're going to see a little bit later. But he didn't understand, how can someone be reborn again? How it goes back to his mother womb, right? So that's what he asks Jesus. And Jesus says to him, "Verily, verily, I say to you, if a man is not born again of water and the spirit, he cannot enter the kingdom of God. Whatever is born from flesh is flesh, and whatever is born from the spirit is a spirit." So in here now, Jesus starts to separate and make it very clear that there is a body and there's a spirit, and they're two completely separate things, right? And the body, which means the organic matter, is going to be born from organic matter, but the spirit comes from the spirit. So the spirit is something and the body is something else, right? So here Jesus starts now not only bringing the concept, very clear the concept of reincarnation, but making that separation, which at the time they didn't separate the body and the soul. So for them, the only way to come back was if they both came back, right? And Jesus says, no, they're completely separate. Whatever is flesh, whatever is spirit is a spirit. And whatever it's organic matter, which is our body, is going to come from organic matter, and this matter, and the spirit is going to come from the spirit, right? And on this passage here, he say what a lot of Christian religions get from this passage when it says, if a man is not born again of water and the spirit, a lot of Christian religions consider this again of water as the baptism. So the reborn by water would be equivalent to the baptism, right? So in the moment that you go and do the celebration, when you either dipped in water or have some water, from a Catholic family, so usually you go to baptism and you just drop some water in our forehead in there. That is the moment which you accept Jesus, and that's in the sense that they think is reborn in terms of accepting Jesus. So in that moment you become a new person, right? But we know that's not exactly. So that's why a lot of them take this passage and they say, no, this is not talking about reincarnation. This is talking about the reborn by water, right? But when we really take a look at this word water, we need to really think when this was written and what the water symbolized at the time. So for the Jews at the time, the times of Jesus and even before Jesus, on the old scriptures, if you go to Genesis, we're going to see that they're talking about the waters of below, the waters above. So everything for them at the time, the water was a symbol of life for them. But the life of a material life, that was the symbol of the water at the time, because they even talking about how things came from the water. So everything below, which is the earth, came from the water. So life is coming, like the fishes and everything they was to do comes from the water. And they was to call the sky as the waters from above, right? So everything, when you look at the creation of the world in the old scriptures, the water had the symbolism of the material organic life. That was the symbol at the time. So it's not a coincidence that when Jesus is talking with the Nicodemus, he says, born again of water and the spirit. Water as a symbol of organic life of the body, right? And the spirit is the spirit. Now, what also happened over the time in these translations, that some religions altered the translation and substituted the word spirit by Holy Spirit. And that's not the original. There's actually an alteration done to the text, and that definitely changed completely the meaning of this whole passage. But that's just an alteration. Someone added a word that doesn't exist original. Okay, so when we think about what was the symbolism of water at the time, when it makes even more clear for us to understand why Jesus says born again of water and the Spirit. So born again of a body and spirit. So the separation again of both of them, right? And today, when we think about what we know about science and how our bodies are made, that makes total sense. We know that the body of a fetus, right? So a little baby inside the mom's womb, that fetus is made 90, the composition of the body is 90% water, right? And for us here, young adults, right? Because we all young adults, our bodies still about between some of us that we're more hydrated than the others, but it's between 65 to 75% of the composition of our body is water, right? As we age, elderly tend to dehydrate over time, so that it can drop to 55, 60%, but still, our organic body here, this body that we carry, it's water, right? It's mostly made of water, right? So when we take this in consideration, we see here very clear Jesus talking about reincarnation, talking about we're reborn from the body when the spirit always coming back, and the separation between both of them, right? And on this passage as well, but Jesus tells to Nicodemus, right? If you need to be born again from water and the Spirit, and he says, whatever is born is flesh, and whatever is born from the Spirit is the Spirit. And then he says to Nicodemus, do not be surprised that I have said it to you, that it's necessary for you to be born again. So when Jesus says this phrase to Nicodemus, he is equivalent to say, Nicodemus, why are you surprised that I'm telling you this? You, above anyone else who knows all the scriptures, who study all of them, you should know what I'm telling you. Because it is there in the Old Testament as well. It's in your scriptures. Didn't you learn this? Didn't you read this? Why are you surprised that I'm telling you that you need to be born again? Okay? And that's exactly what it is. If we go to the Old Testament, okay, we're going to find as well a few passages talking about reincarnation. And one is actually the passage from Malachi that talks about the return of Elijah, the one that the disciples asked Jesus, but Jesus, didn't it say that Elijah should come? Doesn't the scripture say that Elijah should come back? Before he says, yes, in fact, he already came back. So that's in Malachi, where he says, see, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the great and wonderful day of the Lord comes, right? So right here, in Malachi saying, Elijah is going to be born again, okay? The problem is that at the time, they didn't have enough knowledge to understand, and even scientific knowledge to understand that how someone could come back. So they couldn't understand the concept of reincarnation. So what they did, they used the concept of, guys, just give me here 1 second. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to admit someone here. Okay. Sorry, Marcio, someone made me a host of the meeting, and now Marcio is trying to get in. I cannot admit him because my cursor is not working, so I am not sure how to admit him. Okay. Oh, I think he's in. Good. Hey, Marcio, good to have you. I was having a hard time to admit you in back. Sorry about that. Okay. So we see here already talking about the return. But what happened at the time, so they just could not understand this concept of reincarnation of the body, the spirit, that, you're born again. So they used the word of resurrection, because that's what they could grasp at the time. They could grasp the concept of resurrection. So the Elijah would just come back like as a body and spirit, back exactly as he was. He was just gonna come back to death, right? That's why they didn't use the word reincarnation, but they used the word resurrection. Okay. Today, science explains to us that it's impossible, right, to resurrect, because once the body is decomposed, right, it cannot come back. But that's how they grasped it at the time. Okay. And interesting, there's another interesting passage from the Old Testament. It's from Job, and it's chapter 14, item 10 and 14. And depending on which translation you take from that same passage from Job, the concept of reincarnation gets even more clear in there, right? So if you take the translation from Le Maistre de Sacy, it will say, but when a man has died once, when his body, separate from his spirit, has been consumed, what does he become? So look at here, Job, like way before Jesus, okay? He's already talking about king. So another man dies, his body is going to separate from the spirit. He's already saying, okay, I understand that there are two different things. I know the body is going to be consumed, so gone. What has become of him? So he understands what has become. He is the spirit. So he already understands the concept that we are the spirit. The spirit is what's eternal. Body is gone, consumed. But what happens, right? And he already questioning, having died once, can we live again? In this war in which I find myself every day of my life, I wait for my transformation to come. This transformation to come is to come back again, is to transform again and come. So we can see here the Job's already bring this concept, the concepts of the body being separate from the spirit, and that the spirit stays in a certain state somewhere where he's now waiting to come back, right? And we go to the Protestant translation of the same passage of the Osterwald. He has very similar to the first translation. It says, when a man dies, he loses all his strength and expires. So it's talking about the body, loses all the strength, expires, gone. Afterward, where is he? So again, the spirit stays. Where is this? That's probably the only part that he could understand is, I understand he's coming back, is waiting to come back, but waiting where? Where's the spot where he's waiting, right? Will I wait for the days of my struggle until the one in which some kind of transformation come to me? So this translation, they kind of put as a question mark in there, right? But it's very similar to the first. But the version of the Greek church is the one from the same passage from the Job, is the one that's even more clear. Then there's no doubt here about how Job's already talking about a reincarnation. It says, when a man dies, he lives forever. The days of my earthly existence ending, I will wait, because to it I shall return, right? So clearly, so that's why Jesus asked to Nicodemus, why are you surprised? Why are you surprised I'm talking about that you need to be reborn of water and spirit? You should know, you studied that. Is there in Jobs, is there in Malachi? Why are you asking me? Shouldn't you know? You study this. You should know, right? And there's even one more from the Old Testament, from Isaiah, that says, those of you people who have been made to die shall live again. Those who have been slain around me shall live again. So Isaiah's again saying, yes, you're going to die, so death of the body, but you're going to live again, right? So many passages in the whole Bible, doesn't matter if you go to the Old Testament, if you go to the New Testament, it doesn't matter. It talks about reincarnation. It talks about that we need to come back, right? But why we need to come back so many times? Well, Jesus said to Nicodemus, if you want to reach the kingdom of heaven, then you're going to need to be born again. Because when we created by God, we created simply ignorant, and we had to evolve morally and intellectually. And nobody can do that in just one life. It would be impossible. Just look at ourselves right now. Imagine if this was the only one, right? then I think none of us will reach the kingdom of heaven, right? Or maybe one or two, and the whole billions of people that we have here on this planet right now, right? So just a handful would reach. So that's why, because we need to keep learning and getting better each time we come back, right? But why? Jesus was contradicting himself. So this key of this principle of pre-existence of the soul and the plurality of the existence really helps us to understand a lot of things, including our family ties, right? So this concept of a reincarnation also justify all the abnormalities and the apparent injustice, apparent, because there's no injustice in God's view, right? But the apparent injustice, then when we bring the concept of reincarnation, then we see that there's no injustice, that everything has a reason. And also give us the concept, now going to our family ties, how the family ties are created, how we create those family ties, right? And we also understand that by reincarnation, that those family ties are eternal. They were never going to be broken. We're always going to be connected, okay? Okay, now I can change it. Oh, how will I go back? Here. So does the principle of reincarnation strengthens or severs the family ties? Okay, so a lot of people who are Christians but not Spiritists says, oh, you know, this concept of reincarnation actually separates families, right? Because how about if someone that I really love dies before me, and then when I die, this person will reincarnate. I'm not going to find them on the spiritual plane. So actually, you're separating lives. You're separating the people who really love each other, because then there's a chance they will never meet each other again. Is that true or not? So let's make a little comparison here about the concepts that most Christian religions have about what happens with us without believing in reincarnation, and with the concept of reincarnation. Okay. So when you look at the concept with no reincarnation, usually what happens is you have just one life, right? It's this one. You're born, you go through life, you die. And the moment you die, you're going to go through this process of judgment. And then either you go to the right or to the left, or to heaven or hell, okay? There is no other options. Well, there's the purgatory, but even the purgatory is almost like the temporary place where you go, where maybe you can have, it's almost like giving you a chance to a second judgment. So we can take a look here and see if we can find something that we could use on your behalf to, instead of send you to the left or down, we're going to send you to the right and up. But eventually, even the purgatory, you're going to need to get out of the purgatory and go either to one side or to the other, right? And you're going to stay in those two spots for eternity. So if you go to heaven, you stay in heaven for eternity. If you go to hell, you're going to stay in hell for eternity. And whoever is in the hell cannot come to visit in heaven, and whoever is in heaven cannot visit who's in hell. Okay, period. So either you go to one side or the other, and that's it. And most of people that I know that are from like most, well, besides my direct family, all my extended family, they're all Catholic. So they all believe that when they die, they're going to meet the loved ones that went before them, right? There's only one problem with this concept, is that are we really going to meet again? Because for us to meet again, we have to have a guarantee that everybody was directed to the same side, that either everybody went to heaven or everybody went to hell, because otherwise you're not going to meet up again, right? So what happens sometimes with those parents who treat the kids with love and care, who give them all the moral values and everything, and there's that one kid that decides to say, you know what, I don't care for any of this, and I'm going to live a life of a crime. So now this mother and father are going to die and go to heaven, and this kid, who no matter what, how much a criminal they become, is still beloved by the parents, goes to hell. Do you think those parents would be happy in heaven knowing that someone who's beloved to them, it's in hell for eternity, with absolutely no choice, no chance to fixing anything, to even regret what this, you know, I regret what I did. I want to do better, right? No, it's too bad. You had one chance, you burned it. You done. Too bad, right? So does it really keep the families together? Because we just need to believe that we're all going to the same side. Are we all going to the same side? Not always. All right. I remember a very famous drug dealer in Brazil who was born from a very religious parents who really gave him all the moral values. And there's an interview from him saying, my parents are really good people. They have good moral values. They really try to teach me the good moral values. And I know they're right and I'm wrong, but I had no interest in anything that they want to teach me. He made a conscious action choice, say, I don't care. That's not the life that I wanted for me. But he recognized the value of the moral values of the parents gave to him. But he didn't care. Do you think they're going to go to the same spot in this concept of heaven and hell? Do you think that those parents don't still love him and want him to be better and have a better chance? Right? But that's the concept. If you really believe in the concept of heaven and hell, and you're going to stay there from eternity, are we really going to meet up with all the people that we love that went before us? There's not much guaranteeing there, right? Because I may think there was a fantastic person and I'm going to go to heaven when I die. And then all of a sudden I discarnate and then I realize like, oh, it's not up that I'm going. Or you send me down. I wasn't expecting that, right? Because there's no halfway here, right? But when you think about reincarnation, we learn that spirits, they are connected by affection, by true affection. They're connected for eternity. There's no separation at all, right? And in fact, the spirits with the similar inclinations and connected by affection, they start to form groups of family in the spiritual plan, right? And you see this in André Luiz books, where in Nosso they even have, if you have enough bonus hours, they can even buy a house, like they're entitled to have a house, and there's a whole family living in there, right? And some of them have to reincarnate, some of them are coming back from discarnated and coming back, but they create a spiritual family, right? They are connected by affection, by affinity, and they start to help each other because that's what we do, right? When the ones that we love around us, don't we want to help each other? Don't we? So that's what it is. So we connect. And when someone, let's say if we have our spiritual family, and one of us has to reincarnate, the ones that stay behind the spiritual plan, they don't see it as a separation. They know it's temporary. Yes, you're gonna go. You have to go. It's your mission. You have to go. You have to keep your path of evolution. but that's okay. We are going to still be here with you because we still connect, because it doesn't matter if you're incarnated with discarnated or discarnated, or if we're in the spiritual planet, if we're all incarnated, we still all connected always by the ties of love, by the ties of the affection and the affinities that we have, right? So there's no true separation. It doesn't matter in which state we are, incarnated or discarnated, right? Because we create families, and families that goes beyond then who's the father, the mother, who's the son, because those are titles that we have over here, positions that we have over here incarnated. When we're discarnated, of course, probably when I discarnated, I'm going to recognize my mom as being my mom because that's how she was on this previous reincarnation. But then if you really think, it's not that I'm going to discarnate and find how many incarnations I had it before. And probably not always my mom and my father, the spirits around my mom and my father on this one were the same on the previous one. So how many mothers and fathers I'm going to find on the when I discarnated? It's not like that, because the ties is a tie by the fraternal love, right? And we know that when we reincarnate, we may reincarnate in different positions inside the same family, but the ties of love, is the ties of affinity. That's what we have, okay? So even when there's this separation, especially when we're here incarnated and someone discarnates, because we cannot have this direct connection with them as we used to, we feel as a separation. But even that, as a spiritist, we understand that that's temporary, right? And we understand we still can connect to them in spirit in the moment that we're sleeping, right? If we really have the connection. So the connection is always there. And in spiritism, we also always talking about our mentor, right? Some people call my guardian angel, my mentor, my benefactor. It doesn't matter which name you give to it. But we always have our family. We all have our spiritual family who's always there praying for us, connecting us during our sleeping time, to teach us, to give us good counseling, to give us some love, just some comfort. They are always connected to us. They sometimes the ones that even when we're awake, just come and say, give us good counseling. Like, no, don't go through that path, It's not just our benefactor. We have our family. We have our spiritual family. They are also, and they are there. And when when it's our moment of reincarnation, they're all there cheering for us and like sending the good vibration that go and try again, because you're gonna be fine, right? So I always remember that we do have way more than just our benefactor to help us. We do have our family ties here, they're incarnated with us, but our family ties from the spiritual plane as well, right? That it's helping us, supporting us. And that's what the family tie does. That's what this true family tie, because that's what I'm talking about, the true affection, people who are connected by true values of love, right? Because we know here when we incarnated, a lot of our connections, family connections, marriage and everything, a lot of times are made by personal interest, material interest, and people who are connected to each other, either as parents, kids, husband and wife, friends, just by material interest. Those are the spirits that when they discarnate, they're not going to look for each other. They have nothing in common. They don't really love each other. There's no connection of love connecting them, right? So those are just broken at the moment of a discarnation, right? So what we're talking about here is the true mutual affection that we're always going to be connected, right? And so in the end, which one really separates and which one really strengthens, right? Because in spiritism, when we live in reincarnation, even if we're talking about the spirit of the parents, going to the same example, who educated their sons, gave them all the moral value, and they were discarnated, but the kids still want to go to the crime. And when discarnated, they find themselves in a different spots, because they will, right? So the parents probably are going to find themselves in the higher realms of the spiritual side, and this spirit probably is going to be finding themselves in the umbral. Guess what? This mother and father is still connected by the laws of love, and will do anything to help this spirit to rise again, to better themselves, because the spirit will never going to stay the umbral forever. It's going to give them another chance to come back. And we see this with André Luiz himself, beginning of Nosso Lar. André Luiz discarnates, finds himself with the Umbra. And what his mother does with a more evolved spirit, she prays for him. And actually she requests, she does a plead if they can go and rescue him. And of course, the rescue only happens when he himself decides to connect with God and does a prayer and ask for help, because he cannot just go for help there because the mother asked, right? But she's asking, and then he's rescued and bringing to Nosso Lar. He's not bringing to Nosso Lar because of merit. He had no merit to go to Nosso Lar, but was a request from a mother. So this love from a mother is to connect to him, helping him to stand up again, ask for the rescue. The rescue comes. And then, and then you have a whole collection of André Luiz for us to read, which is fantastic. And another book that talks clearly about this, that no matter which state we find each other on the other side, we always going to be connected by the ties of love, is the book Liberation, one of the books that André Luiz brings to us. A mother that for 300 years on the spiritual plan has been praying and connecting with her son, who is in the really low realms of the Umbral. He's actually the chief. He's chief of the gang, who is actually driving a lot of bad things happening to a lot of people who are incarnated. So a bunch of obsessors spirits. He's the chief of the obsessor spirits coming and trying to do bad things, right? Trying to bring disharmony to so many families. And she's for 300 years sending her love to him with his blocking, completely blocking. And then after 300 years, she finally sees a spark on his heart. So finally, all the love that she's sending to him sparks something very little on his heart, but very little. And that's when she comes, the rest of the spirit saying, that's the moment. That's the moment that we have to act. That's the moment to rescue him. And that's how the book starts. And then we're going to see the book, how the whole plan is done to rescue this spirit from the Umbral. 300 years, this mother, and it could be 500, could be 1,000, it doesn't matter. This mother would never have forgotten her son. And she's still fighting for him, sending her love and her prayers until she was able to rescue him. So only, and of course, this spirit eventually is going to have to reincarnate. The spirit of her son will have to reincarnate and come back and restart it again. Because God would never allow any of his children to stay forever in hell just because in one life they couldn't grasp their loss, right? So with the Spiritism and this concept of reincarnation, we tie more and more those family ties. They get stronger. Family ties become really strong, and no matter where the states. So we don't need to be all going to the same spot before we go to meet again in spiritual plane. No, it doesn't matter. If we connected by the laws of love, we are always going to be connected. Okay. And it's interesting because I had this question done for me just recently. Someone really loved to us, to the TSS house, who lost her mother recently, asked me, well, how about if when I disconnect, my mom already reincarnated, I'm not going to meet her. And I said, you are already meeting her. You don't even need to disconnect to meet her. How about when you're sleeping? Are you sure you're not meeting with her? And yes, there is a possibility that when you disconnect, maybe she's reincarnated, but then you're going to watch her from the spiritual plane and be with her. And when she's sleeping, you still can connect with her while you're in the spiritual plane. So there's never a disconnection on spirits that are connected by the ties of love, right? So clearly, I prefer this concept of reincarnation than the concept of a heaven and hell, right? And I really think that eventually this concept of heaven and hell is going to fall, because it makes no sense, because it goes contrary to this God who is pure love and mercy. You're going to be a God of mercy when you when you condemn someone to hell forever, for eternity, right? And in fact, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, the Pope said that heaven and hell doesn't exist, this concept. So you see small transformations already inside the Catholic Church saying, yes, actually didn't say heaven and hell, said that hell doesn't exist. So this concept, or at least in the sense of, this eternal fire and everything, right? Of course, he didn't give much explanation, but he says the concept of hell, it doesn't exist, right? So we see the transformations. And the religions will have to transform, because otherwise it won't make sense anymore. As we grow intellectually, as we grow as a spirit, some of those concepts are not going to make sense anymore, right? So do we always reincarnate with everybody who's part of our family, our spiritual family? In general, yes. Okay. So it's by coincidence that I have the mother and father I have, the brothers that I have, the uncles, cousins, close friends. No, it's not. Nothing's random. Okay. So more or less, we always reincarnate with the same spirit. Not exactly the same, but they're more or less the same. What changes a lot of times is the position. So someone who in this one was my brother or my sister, next one will be just a close friend. Or my father to the next one, maybe my uncle, or my mom may be my sister. Like, we change positions, so we all learn a little bit from each other in the different positions. Okay? But more or less, we also the same spirits, we have the same affinities, and usually we have the debts. That's the spirits that have the debts with as well, right? Because if those are the ones that I'm leaving right now, those are the problems that I have offended, that I have something against. So those are the ones that usually have to come also to readjust. Okay, but a lot of times just to help each other as well. Okay. Now, sometimes we have those families where there's this major harmony between the family, and they all more or less have the same, not necessarily personality, but they have the same values. They also, it seems so harmonic. And then there's one person in the family completely off, that we tend to say, oh, this person doesn't belong to the family. And the Spirit says on the Gospel according to the Spirit, and say, yes, that's actually quite true. You're actually quite right when you're saying that. And what happens sometimes is that, how I said that we form those spiritual families, and we all tend to come together to help each other to further our moral development. So we tend to reincarnate on the same family. So because we all have the same level of, more or less the same level of evolution, we all, so there's the harmony. And sometimes you can get that one spirit who's less evolved than this family and puts on that family. And then becomes that one person who's kind of, this person here is really, it's completely off, right? And sometimes that person almost try to bring disharmony to the family, is the angry one, is the one who it doesn't fit at all, right? Why does it happen? And a lot of times spiritually, this spirit doesn't belong to the spiritual family. Well, why this happens? Why sometimes it happens? And you see this in the book Missionaries of Light. When André Luiz comes with the benefactors from the Nosso Solar, they arrive in this very humble house in outskirts of Rio de Janeiro. It's this widow, has, I think, 5 kids, in a very, very humble house, but she has so much faith, and she has such a great connection with the higher spirits that they talk about her house having this light that shines light to the whole neighborhood. And all the kids are just the model, like they do the gospel at home. They all connected to, the same faith and moral evolution that the mother has, besides one kid. The one kid, I was complaining, why are we praying? What is this? Like, we don't need this. We need money. We need money to get out of this poverty. Like, I don't care. So it's the rebel one that's there, who doesn't understand how in so much poverty, the mother can help others. Like, we should not be helping others. We need help. That's what this little kid thinks, this little boy. We should not helping others. We're poor. We should be helping ourselves. We need more. And in the book, that's exactly what he says. Because André Luiz is like, this spirit here is a little bit off. And then he goes, yes. And he was putting in purpose. Every time we have a spirit like that that's off, putting on a family, it has a dual reason, right? Purpose. There's a dual purpose. So one is to give this spirit who is less evolved than the rest of the family to evolve, to be born on and raised on an environment where the values, moral values, the faith, everything is brought to them, and to the family to grow as well. Because it's easy to have someone on your family like that? Not at all. So this family is going to have to practice love, charity, patience, resignation, help this spirit, because that's what is put in there. Their mission is to help this spirit to evolve, right? Of course, at the end is the choice of the spirit to absorb what this family is giving or not. But that's what it's put in. Yeah, so sometimes you could have someone in our families who is not really part of the spiritual family, but there is always a reason. And the reason is to help both sides to grow and evolve morally, right? One by being exposed to better moral values, and the other for practicing love, fraternity, charity, resignation, patience, right? There's another reason why we reincarnate with people that sometimes is difficult. How about the ones that we have been fighting for the longest time in previous reincarnations? We see that on, again, Missionaries of Light, chapter 13, starts talking about the reincarnation of Sigismund. So Sigismund in the previous life had killed a man who now in this life is going to be his father. Why he's going to come in a position of son? Very simple. Because for a few incarnations, those two keep killing each other. They hate each other. And then every time they reincarnate and they're put in a position where they should fix this hatred, what happens intuitively, they kind of recognize each other, even though they don't recognize consciously. It's not like, oh, I remember you from the previous reincarnation. That's not like this. But intuitively, the kind of energy that they have against each other is the energy, is not the energy of love, it's the energy of hate. So when they find each other, they reject each other again. And then this time I kill you, next time you kill me. So now it's time to stop it. So they're going to happen. They're going to come as a father and a son. So through the filial love, the love between a father and a son, now it's time for them to break and substitute those laws of those energy of hatred and substitute them by the energy of love as a father and a son. And if you read the book, it's not easy, because every time the spirit gets close to the parents, the father unconsciously feels unease and is rejecting him, unconsciously rejecting the spirit who needs to come, right? And then things are done in the book. Read the book because it's amazing, to help finally Sigismund to reincarnate and come to this family as a son, right? So finally, that's, if you really think it, that's merciful of God to do that. Because probably if you had put them to come as a cousins or or just friends, they would probably still hating each other. But as a father and son, when he's born as a baby, this father is going to have to care for this baby because he's a baby. It's going to have to care. It's going to have to develop love, right? All the children love their parents as they're growing. Then after they grow, things can change. But as a little, you always think that your parents are your heroes, right? So you create this bond of love here as a way to break the old relationships. Okay. So that's why also we see the antipathy between family members. Why there's I have 3 brothers and sisters. I just have 2, but let's say we are 4 or 5 kids, and there are 2 brothers and sisters that I really go real well. But there's that one brother, that one sister, like no matter what, like there's no way. I just don't like. We just always talking, and no matter what we do, we just cannot get along. Do you think it's a coincidence? And why you think you put in a position as a brother and sister? To see by the love of brothers and sisters, we probably break some that energy that we had against each other from before. Can be between brothers and sisters, can be between parents, can be that one uncle that no matter what, everybody loves him. Like I just don't. Like I don't care. Because people that we meet that becomes our instant friend, like you don't even know how. And those people that you just need to set an eye on them, it's like, no, we're not gonna be friends. Is it a coincidence? No, right? Because we bring those relationships from before, right? So through the ties of family, by the relationship inside of a family, that's how we start to break those energies. And it's not just about a break, it's break and substitute, because eventually, and it could be that maybe in this reincarnation, I can just break the energy of not hating you anymore and not doing anything bad to you anymore. It's fine. But eventually, we're going to have to do more than that. We're going to have to substitute that energy by a positive one. Okay. So basically, that's what I want to bring to you guys today. Okay. And it's very important for us to understand our family ties and be grateful for them, even the difficult ones. Actually, probably should be more grateful for the family ties, the difficult ones, because those are the ones that are really going to make us grow and probably solve a little bit of the problems that we were supposed to solve when we were here. Okay. And I know today when you talk about family ties and reincarnation, we're automatically talking about our family ties here, right? The family that we were born here. But I want to just as a reminder, bring this picture and remember that humanity is our family, okay? And that Jesus is the head of this family guiding us. So in the end, there's just one family, and we're here to love one another, regardless of what the position it is, because we are just one major family called humanity. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All this message also, it was a way, and I connected to the Spiritism, like from Catholic, being from a Catholic country, Catholic family background. All started making more sense. And as we start reading more and more, it just like makes more sense. Yeah, that's basically like as simple as that. And I'm not sure if you have any questions. I don't see anything. Do you see anything, Marcio?
No, there is no questions. I just want to thank Teresa as well for the lecture. You know, one of the things that consoled me the most when I started learning Spiritism was this concept of reincarnation and the family ties being strength because of it. You know, I was always afraid, oh my God, I'm not going to heaven with my family. What's gonna happen to me? I don't want to be there by myself in hell. And I was really, really afraid to die. That was one of the biggest things in my life. It was, oh my God, I don't want to get old. I don't want to die. I'm afraid of it. And all this concept of spiritism, reincarnation in spiritism brought a completely different view. And, you know, aging has been easier now. Thank you, Teresa, for reminding all those teachings.
And I have to remember that it's not just for, let's say if my parents already died before me, or I have a brother who died, they're not the only ones that we may find when we're scanning. How about all the other family that we don't even remember that's going to be there waiting for us, right?
It all makes sense also, like that person seems out of place in that family, or one brother, one uncle, or that's like, okay, what's going on? And then you see like, okay, that's we need to help, or there's something we need to learn about it. And it's very interesting. Like it always gets me more eager in to understand that complexity. But at the end, knowing that we are brothers, we all have to go through similar issues or similar process, or a learning process. It's all that we can do. I can help each other. Look at the side. There's always something going through a more challenging than you, and It's you can learn from that. You can help, and always being there for
Mhm.
whoever is around you, right?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely helps us to understand. Even, for example, if you're parents and you have 3 or 4 kids, you may love them, you may know you absolutely love them all the same, but sometimes your relationship to 1 or 2 of them is easier
Yeah.
than the other, right? Love is one thing, but it's just a connection. It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Why? Right?
Have to
And
learn
also,
to work, like to relate the relationship with that person. Has
exactly. Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
different approach, and yeah.
And explains also why, how come I have 3 kids? I raise them exactly the same and they have completely different personality to just exist this one life.
Yeah.
Because if they raised in the same environment by the same parents in the same way, they should have absolutely the same personality and they should be all easygoing for me to deal with them. And it's not. Right.
Yeah.
So, and because they have 2 kids and they probably have different personalities, right?
Some of the behavior or some of the attitudes are really like they're sponge, right? If you react in a certain way for certain, you have your behavior for certain scenarios or certain things that is happening, you see that coming from them. But other things are just like, okay, where this came from?
Yeah.
I never thought about it or never taught you that way, or
Yeah.
but you also learning that, okay, oh, I could have thought that. They have a different point of view about it, or have thought
Yeah.
differently about it. So it's always a uh, exchanging of experience, and not because you're older, like in this planet or in this reincarnation, you're older means that you necessarily know more or have more to teach than the other ones. In fact, I see that opposite. I see the kids are growing and coming much more like evolved than in our generation or in our
Each
youth.
generation has a lot to learn from each other.
Yeah,
That's what I have to understand, right?
okay, I guess we're out of time. Don't see any other comments. I guess we can go for our closure. Do you guys have anything else to add, or
No.
okay? So let's do our closing prayer. Let's all close our eyes. Again, take this opportunity to thank you for um, our Lord, our mentor Jesus, for this opportunity to being involved or to be having the experience to learn from this their messages, the messenger, our friend Teresa, for being the messenger today. All our friends that are somehow involved in this, um, on the TSS, on this, our friends, married or not, in the part of this and preparing this lecture, this environment, um, that all of us got uh, deeper on this, all the all the message that were brought during the lecture about families, about love, um, not necessarily our close family, but our close friends, our spiritual family. That we take this opportunity as the Easter Sunday as well to have this another good times with our close ones, whatever, whenever in the world you are, that we can send our most good vibes and good um, like vibrations to all the ones that are in need. This taking the opportunity also to send all the light to our friends that going to wars, to this still the pandemic, that are having some challenges, are in hospital, or our families and friends that are going through challenges mentally, and physical. So I'll take this opportunity to pray for all of them, and thank you again for the opportunity to be here as the MC today. And hope you all have a great day, a great week, start of the week, and hope we are here again and see you all again next week. Thanks again for our Lord, our friends, and so be it.
So be it. Thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Marcio.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye bye.